All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to our webinar today. We're going to be talking about what's new with AWS Storage as of November 2019. My name is Robbie Wright. I'm part of the AWS Storage team. I've been at AWS for about 3 years. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things all across the AWS Storage portfolio today, and we've got a lot to share. So I'm just going to jump right in. So let's start with one of our most used services, Amazon EBS. Amazon Elastic Block Storage, as it's also known, is frequently attached to Amazon EC2 instances, as you can probably guess, a block storage platform. And as part of that, EBS provides a snapshot feature for data protection. So for those of you who are familiar with EBS, you probably use snapshots today. And previously, when you were restoring volumes from snapshots, that required an asynchronous initialization period of several hours per volume copy. And we've made some changes to that with some new features and functionality that we've launched recently. We call this new functionality EBS Fast Snapshot Restore, or FSR. And with FSR, you can create up to 10 volumes simultaneously with instant maximum performance from an FSR-enabled snapshot. So by enabling FSR, you get significant improvements in speed. So you no longer need to wait for the lazy loading of data from snapshots for fully performant volumes. You get predictability. Enabling FSR takes about 60 minutes for each 1 terabyte of snapshot size, and after this, restored volumes have maximum performance. It also helps you lower cost and overhead. So there's no need to purchase and attach additional EC2 instances to more quickly pull data blocks from snapshots. And then it also gives you the benefit of parallel volume creation. So you can create up to 10 simultaneous volume restores. And some use cases for this functionality are virtual desktop infrastructure, backup and recovery, backup and restore, test dev volume copies if you want to create multiple different copies for test dev use cases, or booting from custom AMIs. And to learn more about this feature, you can go to aws.amazon.com/EBS. And now we'll move on to another one of our services. This one's a file system. In 2016, we launched Amazon Elastic File System, and EFS provides simple, scalable, fully managed, and elastic NFS file system for use with the AWS cloud services and with on-premises resources. EFS is built to scale on demand without disrupting applications, to grow and shrink automatically with files, and to eliminate the need to manage capacity. EFS is a regional service, so similar to Amazon S3, and in contrast with EBS, which is a single AZ service. So EFS being a regional service means that it stores data across multiple AWS availability zones for high availability and durability. And recently, so the main things that have changed for EFS is just wider availability. On November 20th, we made EFS available in 4 additional AWS regions: the Middle East and Bahrain, EU Stockholm, South America Sao Paulo, and the Asia Pacific Hong Kong regions. And so with the addition of these 4 regions, you can now use EFS in 19 different AWS regions. Now, last year at AWS reInvent, we also launched another file system called Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. And this provides a Windows or SMB file system in a fully managed Windows File Server instance. So over the last few months, we've released an extensive list of enterprise-ready features for FSx for Windows File Server that help simplify the lift and shift of Windows applications, enable more flexible management, and optimize the costs of Windows-based file or Windows file-based applications. And last week we enhanced that by launching several new capabilities. We also launched support for SMB transparent failover, and that provides continuously available file shares on multi-AZ FSx file systems, enabling applications that require non-disruptive access to shared Windows data, such as SQL Server Always On or similar applications, and that enables them to use FSx as their file storage. And I mentioned multi-AZ Windows file systems. We actually have now made it much easier for you to create multi-AZ Windows file systems in FSx. And it's important. I've mentioned availability zones a little bit already, but I want to sort of unpack that a little bit and explain why that's important. So within AWS, we have this construct of regions and availability zones, and it's different from what a lot of other cloud options will support. So within AWS, a region is a place in the world where we have multiple availability zones. And those availability zones are actually separated by typically miles across a metro area, and by spreading them across that area, we isolate from local failures, things like fires or floods, and those kinds of things, to help increase availability by giving you that geographic redundancy. So within every AWS region, you have multiple availability zones that you can replicate across, or that you can use to enhance availability of an application. So with FSx for Windows File Server now, you can create multi-AZ file systems with a click of a button. And that's a new capability that allows you to span those availability zones without a whole lot of heavy lifting. So you no longer need to set up or manage replication across AZs. We do that for you. And when you create a multi-AZ file system, FSx automatically provisions and maintains an active file server and a hot standby file server in a different AZ, each one with their own storage. And this capability is really ideal for large enterprises with Windows workloads that require shared storage and fault tolerance across AZs. This will help customers that need highly available and durable shared Windows file storage for things like their home directories, their business applications, and their web serving environments. And like our other storage offerings, security is built into FSx from the ground up. In addition to security, we provide the ability to support PCI DSS, ISO, and SOC compliance, and HIPAA eligibility. But coming back to security, FSx already offers automatic encryption of data in transit and at rest. But now we've added support for fine-grained control of those in-transit encryption settings for your file system. This gives you the ability to set file system level versus shared level encryption, and the option to enforce in-transit encryption to meet your compliance needs. We've also added new user quotas, and these user quotas will give you the option to monitor and control user level storage space consumption. So using remote management PowerShell CLI on your file system, you can enable and disable user quotas. You can configure quota levels for the default and for specific users. You can choose how to handle violations, and you can choose between either tracking or enforcing by denying further storage space. And then you can also list current quota violations. So those additions complement the extensive list of security and remote admin features such as direct AD join, monitoring, and logging API calls using AWS CloudTrail and others. We've also given you more capability to reduce the cost of Windows workloads. So FSx already offers the flexibility to optimize costs based on performance needs by choosing your file system size independently of throughput for your file-based Windows workloads. We now offer two other cost-optimized features for your Windows file systems. Data deduplication helps reduce the costs associated with duplicated data, with typical savings of 50 to 60% for general file shares, and we now support that functionality in data deduplication. We've also reduced the minimum file size to 1/10 of the current level that we were supporting for SSD-based file systems. So we've gone from 300 gigabytes down to 32 gigabytes. And that is based on customer requests to enable workloads that have smaller storage size needs. So things like file share witness for SQL Server clusters. Now let's talk about AWS Data Sync. Data Sync is another one of those services that we launched at AWS reInvent last year. And it's a transfer service that makes it easy for you to automate moving data between on-premises storage and Amazon S3, Amazon EFS. Data Sync automatically handles many of the tasks related to data transfers that can slow down migrations or burden your IT operations, including running your own instances, handling encryption, managing scripts, network optimization, and data integrity validation. Data Sync is super fast. You can use Data Sync to transfer data at speeds up to 10 times faster than open source tools. It's automated. Data Sync automates both the management of data transfer processes and the infrastructure required for high performance secure data transfer. Data Sync also includes automatic encryption and data validation. And all of that works together to minimize the in-house development and management otherwise needed for fast, reliable, and secure data transfer. Data Sync helps with one-time migrations or with ongoing transfers. So the service is really built to enable those one-time migrations, recurring processing workflows, and automated replication for data protection and recovery. Data Sync is also super flexible. It supports flexible configurations to suit your specific needs, including bandwidth throttling, copying source permissions and metadata. It's integrated with AWS services deeply, so that makes it really easy to get started with Data Sync. All you have to do is deploy the Data Sync agent on premises, connect it to a file system or a storage array, select Amazon EFS, S3 as your AWS storage, and then start moving data. And as is important with all of these things, it is secure and compliant. All of your data transferred via Data Sync is encrypted in transit and at rest. And for each transfer, the system performs integrity checks. These checks ensure that the data written to your destination matches the data read from your source, validating consistency. And Data Sync also makes sure that your data arrives securely intact and ready for use. So we've made some improvements with Data Sync. We've listened to our customers and heard a lot of different things. So we're announcing a price reduction of 68% for AWS Data Sync effective from November 1st, 2019. Data Sync has simple, predictable, usage-based pricing. And with Data Sync, you only pay for the amount of data that you actually transfer. and your costs are based on a 1.25 cents per gigabyte fee that is flat. And there are no upfront costs and no minimum fees to use DataSync. In addition, DataSync is now available in 5 additional AWS regions, including Europe, Stockholm, South America, Sao Paulo, Asia Pacific, Hong Kong, Asia Pacific, Mumbai, and AWS GovCloud US East. And with this launch, DataSync is now available in all commercial and GovCloud AWS regions. And finally, we've launched task scheduling for AWS DataSync that gives you the ability to schedule data transfers. So when using DataSync, you can now schedule data transfers between your NFS servers, SMB servers, S3, EFS, and DataSync will handle those transfers for you on your schedule. Now let's take a look at AWS Storage Gateway. Storage Gateway is a hybrid cloud storage service with local caching that gives customers low latency on-premises access to virtually unlimited cloud storage. Storage Gateway supports multiple protocols to enable companies to seamlessly connect on-premises applications to AWS storage without having to modify those existing applications. It gives you local caching that basically offloads to the cloud based on your desired performance parameters, so you can fine-tune the balance of latency and scale for your workloads. It gives you optimized data transfer with bandwidth management, automated network resilience, and efficient data transfer. It's secure and compliant. Storage Gateway benefits from the durability and security embedded in the other AWS cloud storage services. And so storage management tools like versioning, cross-region replication, lifecycle management policies that can lower the cost of long-term archiving, simplify audit and compliance requirements, and safeguard all of your data are available and transferable into Storage Gateway based on the underlying service that they're using. Storage Gateway is also super cost effective. So because cloud storage is delivered and billed on demand, you always have just the right amount. So workloads can expand and contract, backup and archive storage can expand without upfront media costs, and you can provision additional storage capacity without having to provision new hardware. And finally, storage gateways are really easily managed via the AWS console. And most importantly, once your data is in the AWS cloud, it can be queried, accessed, and used across the entire portfolio of AWS applications and services. So we've launched several new things for Storage Gateway in the last week. We've for workloads that require uninterrupted operations and performance SLAs, customers have asked for a highly available solution that's resilient to hardware, storage, networking, or software errors in their on-premises infrastructure. Customers are looking to simplify their operational processes of monitoring and optimizing resources allocated to their gateway VM to align with increasing performance needs. And for workloads that can't be interrupted, customers want to align software updates on their gateway with maintenance windows and their IT policies. And now let's jump over to Amazon S3. So S3 customers receive a really high level of availability and durability for their S3 data in every AWS region. Customers often have compliance or business requirements to replicate their data to a second region, hundreds or even thousands of miles away from their primary region. And so, S3 is well known in the market, and there are literally millions of customers that use it every day. Um, and as we talked about earlier, you have these constructs of regions and availability zones, and like Amazon EFS that we talked about earlier, S3 is a regional service. And so every time that you write data into S3, you have the ability to, uh, or you have geographic replication already built in, because we're writing across 3 geographically separate availability zones within an AWS region. And so we've launched some new capabilities around replication, particularly, we've had for a while cross-region replication, that ability to replicate data from any AWS region to any other AWS region. And replication provides an automatic mechanism to make identical copies of those objects in a destination of your choosing. So you can do that for multiple different use cases, whether you want to have data locally for users in a different part of the world to reduce latency, or if you need to have a protection copy beyond what you get from the regional protection and the geographic protection that you have built into every AWS region. So replication can help you meet some of those data resiliency and compliance requirements, or place copies of your data close to internal users for that operational efficiency I talked about earlier. And those use cases involve replication across regions. Other needs involve replication within the same AWS region. For example, replication can be used to replicate data between your production and test accounts, helping your teams be more agile, or to simplify analytics jobs by aggregating logs from multiple services in different buckets into a single bucket for analysis. Finally, a replication can also help you protect against unintentional deletes by keeping a copy of your data in a different account, often in a less expensive, infrequent access storage class, that also allows you to meet data residency requirements that require data to stay within a particular AWS region and not replicate to across regions to another AWS region. So let's review how S3 replication helps you meet those needs next. S3 replication is an automatic and asynchronous process that makes an identical copy of your object, retaining all the metadata that's on the source object, including the object creation date and time and version IDs. S3 replication has always worked across AWS regions. So customers have asked us to extend that capability to replicate within the same region, as I mentioned earlier. And so we've recently announced exactly that. And that's and now you have the choice to choose the destination bucket in the same AWS region as the source within S3. So let's take a closer look at those capabilities. So S3 replication gives you the choice of replicating entire buckets, a set of objects under a given prefix, or specific objects that you identify with object tags of your choice. Replication begins as soon as you upload an object to S3 that's covered by a replication policy, making an identical copy of that object to a destination bucket of your choice. Once you've selected your source data set, you select a destination bucket, which, as we've mentioned, can now include buckets in the same region as your source bucket. To enhance data security, you can choose to change the ownership of your replica copies and also replicate them to another account, so that no single user or account can erroneously or unintentionally delete all copies of your data. And depending on your use case for the replica copy, you can choose to keep it in a frequent access storage class or replicate it directly into an an infrequent access or archive storage class, such as S3 Glacier or S3 Glacier Deep Archive. You can also specify different lifecycle policies on your source and replica objects to optimize costs based on your access patterns in both the primary and secondary locations. So since the launch of CRR in 2015, S3 customers have replicated trillions of objects and exabytes of data. And today we're making this robust capability even more powerful with a new feature called S3 Replication Time Control. Customers have been asking for details on replication time and metrics for compliance requirements and other use cases for some time now. And we're pleased to announce that S3 Replication Time Control is now generally available in all AWS commercial regions. Replication Time Control provides customers that are often interested in the time it takes for objects to replicate to their destination, which is influenced by the object size, the count, and other factors with visibility and additional control over replication time. You can now use all of the capabilities of S3 replication with a new 15-minute replication time service level agreement. And a set of CloudWatch metrics and event notifications that are part of S3 Replication Time Control. S3 Replication Time Control gives you a set of metrics that you can use to monitor replication for each replication rule. These metrics tell you how many objects and bytes are pending replication and the maximum replication latency of the objects covered by your replication time control policy. You can view these metrics in the S3 Management Console or in CloudWatch and set up alarms to notify you when any of these metrics exceed a threshold of your choice. These CloudWatch metrics are aggregated for each replication rule, and you may also want to monitor a replication at the object level, which you can do with the S3 replication events that we'll review next. You can view these metrics in the S3 Management Console or in CloudWatch and set up alarms to notify you when any of these metrics exceed a threshold of your choice. These CloudWatch metrics are aggregated for each replication rule. Replication time control gives you predictable replication times that most objects replicate in seconds. 99% of objects replicate within 5 minutes, and 99.99% of objects replicate within 15 minutes. This replication performance is backed by an SLA that covers the replication of 99.9% of objects in each replication region pair in any billing month. In the unlikely case that the SLA is not met, you'll receive a credit on the replication time control charges, data transfer and request charges, and the destination storage charges associated with the objects that did not replicate within 15 minutes in the billing period effective. You can view the full service level agreement on the AWS SLA website. And with that, we will open the floor up to questions and answers on any of these recent launches.